Hey, hi, hello, welcome to my corner of the internet. My name is Fats. We have November's wrap up to do, but before we get into the wrap up, I do have a little bit of housekeeping that I want to do. Fingers crossed, and also I'm hoping that we can all be patient with me as we sort of iron the kinks out of this, but I do want to bring in an element of a book club into next year, especially like while we're small. I'm horribly shy, and the thought of like more than a couple of us doing this just sort of makes me feel kind of stressed out. So like I really want to sort of dip our toes in the water of book club and see how we like that. Now, here's what I'm thinking, and if you have comments, thoughts, I would love to hear your thoughts. But for me, I think discussion is so valuable, even if you don't have the resources or ability to get to a book. So I'm thinking, here's what I'm thinking. I have a stack of books, and every month I'm going to put out a long sort of discussion type video on the chosen topic. I've chosen 5 books per topic for each month that I'm doing. And you are going to choose one book from that stack that will be our book for that discussion. I'm really excited about the books that I've chosen. Mind you, some of these books were chosen for the purpose of discussion. I do know that the author of one of these is fairly problematic and the viewpoints are fairly problematic, but based off of discussion, I got it from a used bookstore. I supported my local used bookstore. You'll know which one I'm talking about when we get to it. So remember, with each month, please tell me what one book you want to do for book club. We are deciding for January, February, and March. My hope is that I can like provide some resources. I can sort of put out some Substack posts of think pieces of each, just so you kind of know where my mind is at. Hopefully spark some thoughts in your own brain before we get to book club. Okay. So for January, I don't know when we're going to meet yet. We'll figure that out later. We're ironing the kinks out together. For January, I wanted to talk dystopian literature and what it is to be afraid of our future and what it is to hold fear of. And I have a collection of dystopian books. We have Never Let Me Go by Kazuo Ishiguro, A Clockwork Orange by Anthony Burgess, The Handmaid's Tale by Margaret Atwood, The Blue Book of Nebo by Manon Stefan Ross, Tender is the Flesh by Augustina Basterica, and Severance by Ling Ma. All the titles for the January vote are currently on the screen. Please take the time to choose which one you would want to talk about, and we'll sort of space this around mid to end January for whichever one book you want to do in a live. That's January dystopian literature. For February, I wanted to do a collection of books just about boys kissing boys. Of these books, please let me know which one you would like to do a book club live hangout on. I have The Prophets by Robert Jones Jr., In Memoriam by Alice Wynne, Swimming in the Dark by Thomas Tchaikovsky, Call Me By Your Name by Andre Aciman, and Real Life by Brandon Taylor. All the books that are a possibility for February's book club are going to be on the screen now. Please let me know in the comments which books for February you are looking for or which one you would like to do. Don't worry, I'll remind you maybe later. I'll figure out some way to do a community post in case we need a refresher of what's going on. I'll keep you in the loop so you don't forget. And then I have March. In March, I really want to discuss grief. The March list is stacked. The March list is so stacked that I'm considering, depending on what you guys say, doing more than one for book club. Because we have Beloved by Toni Morrison, Stoneyard Devotional by Charlotte Wood, Model Home by Rivers Solomon, Martyr by Kaveh Akbar, and Loved One by Aisha Muharrar. The March books are up on the screen. Please leave in your comment which book from March you would like to do for book club. I will let you know when I get a Substack started and what that's going to look like. I don't know if I'm going to make like study guides or reviews or just like think pieces around certain ideas, characters, and thoughts and how I'll post that up. I'm also like, while we're getting the dust off on this, I'm just going to post as I feel. It's going to happen as we feel. Right now we're ironing the kinks out and I'm figuring out how I want everything to look and I'm figuring out what you guys like and what you guys need. So while we're all figuring this out this year together, please be very open with me about what type of Substacks you would like to see or what type of materials are your favorites. And let me know if you like a very structured book club or if you like more of a loose talking book club, if you want to go chapter by chapter, or if you just want me to like pick out some big themes or some big talking points that I feel. Let me know what you're thinking. And last time, I'm going to put it up on the screen one last time. But I'm excited. I'm hoping that I can get my life together enough to balance this because in the future, I really want to add in like a fantasy, like more of a high fantasy type of book club as well. But I need to like check in with myself because at my job, the busiest seasons are Q2 and Q3. So I don't even want to try to like, I need to, okay. But I think that's all the housekeeping that I have. As we go, I'll keep you in the loop of how I'm doing, how I'm feeling, what I'm putting out. Those are all the books for our book club or long chats that are coming up. I'm still reading outside of this. I read 15 books a month. So the 5 is just gonna be 5 dedicated to like a bigger topic or a longer read. But this is the outcome of that personal curriculum I was thinking about setting for myself. And I'm just bringing you in to all the things that I want to talk about. If this is your first time ever hanging out in this corner of the internet, I think discourse around something disliked is just as important as discourse as something liked. I am so open to your vote being for a book that you want to discuss the nuances of why we don't like it. I'm so open to that. So please just vote for what you want to talk about. It doesn't even have to be voting for something that we're going to enjoy. Just let me know. And then maybe we'll figure out how to do like a community something for the top 3 that I see in these comments. I don't know. Please bear with me. And keep your eye on like my notifications or like the community tab on my YouTube channel in case I do post a second iteration of this vote, just to make sure everybody can have their voices heard. Whew, glad we covered that. let's get into this wrap-up, why don't we? In the month of November, I read 12 books. 7 of them were books with pictures. So let's jump right into it. The first book that I read was Rules for Ruin by Mimi Matthews. On the outskirts of London, in a seemingly innocuous institution, are a collection of women. And these women band together in order to fight against the patriarchy, fight for feminism, fight for women's rights. The way that they do this is through distraction and disruption. This is a very, secret spy, but girly pop, almost. This is the Crinoline Academy, and you talk about the skirts and what they have. They are trained, but they're more trained in the subversion of conversation and flirting and having a hand here and being able to weasel their ways over here. But what they fight for are women's rights, marriage rights, all of that. At the beginning of the story, we have a politician who is pushing forward a lot of acts and bills, specifically hindering the woman in marriage or the woman that gets out of marriage. And so the school pulls in a very curmudgeonly spy woman, Euphemia. Euphemia is going to go on one last case. Unfortunately, there is a man named Gabriel who is the owner of the local betting yards. Gabriel has wants for this politician as well. While Euphemia wants the politician out, Gabriel wants to keep the politician in for his own purposes. There's a little bit of romance. It's very much not the center of the book, but it is one of those bylines that you do root for. I did think it was cute. One thing that I want to say about this one is this book felt like, do you remember when I read The Rose Bargain? And I said that it had stakes that felt very girly pop and I enjoyed it, but it didn't quite hit because the plot itself sort of fell through a little bit. This feels very adjacent in that it is the stakes and the fight and the banter, all of that feels very feminine and very ladylike. And one thing I like about it is while Euphemia is our renowned spy person, there isn't a point where she feels out of character. She's still afraid of heights. She still has favorite shoes. She still likes pretty things. She feels like herself in all of this. She isn't just randomly somebody who can do a backflip in karate. She is the character that the author set out to write. And I like that because I feel like there is depth in sort of falling into exactly what a lady is, but still fighting for more. I think that was great. There are a few things I thought were silly goofy. Euphemia is taking this case because she's like an indentured spy, almost. And if she wins this case, she wins her freedom from the academy. For an institution based around women's rights, it's odd that they're indentured. So odd, but whatever. It's a crazy world that we live in. After that, I read Ennead. Now, Ennead is a published webtoon, I believe, and it was insane. I would say that it is taboo. And the reason I say it's taboo is if you know a lot of mythology, and especially Greek and Egyptian mythology, there's a lot of sibling stuff, but it's the gods. It's not really siblings when you think of them as gods. Something about it, I don't know, feels taboo, isn't really taboo. There are siblings, but they're not siblings, but they're gods, but you know they're all, do you get it? Let me tell you what it's about. And then I'm going to be honest, I need to talk about the ending. I need to spoil some things. I'm going to tell you. And then I'm going to put a frame up around myself so I can talk spoilers. And then we're going to move to the next book. But what is the Ennead? The Ennead are the 9 powerful gods that rule Egypt. And the god of war, Seth, has killed his brother Osiris. In that killing, Seth is now the ruler of all of Egypt. And Egypt falls to ruin. Seth is killing people left and right. He's killing the followers of Isis. He's killing the followers of Osiris. He's killing everybody. He just sort of lives in this drunken, induced state while Egypt falls around him. He's cruel to everybody, his son, his wife, the other gods, and he's sort of secluded himself in his anger. Prophecy has named Horus the next ruler of Egypt. But Horus is not yet a god. However, as Egypt falls, Horus steps up and challenges Seth to a set of trials, and the victor of these trials will then rule Egypt. I cannot talk about this book if I don't spoil it a little bit, so frame. We are in spoiler time. If you want to scroll ahead to me not spoiling anymore, just scroll ahead until you don't see this frame around me anymore, okay? You don't find all of this out, what I'm about to tell you, you don't find this out until volume 6, the last volume out of all of this, right? So Osiris is the god of life, the god that Seth had killed, right? You know that Seth killed him before the book even starts. You learn that in the first couple pages. Osiris, we find out, was obsessed with Seth, his brother. And Osiris got it in his head that Seth could only love someone if that person could give them a baby, if they could have a child. Osiris played a lot with life and death and giving and taking. Osiris had made Seth infertile. But in his obsession, Osiris gained the power of giving and taking life from Nephistis, Seth's wife. And Osiris begot child with Nephistis, birthing Anubis. Now, Seth never knew Anubis was not his child. Never knew. But when he does find out, he immediately thinks that his wife and his brother that he got cheated on. He had been away at war. He'd been saving Egypt. He'd been protecting Egypt. Seth prided himself in war being used as a means of protection, not as a means of destruction and evil. So he approaches Osiris and he goes, I can't believe you did this. Osiris says, I did it for you. And I did it for us. I wanted you to love me. And if I could give you a child, maybe you would want me the way that I want you. And Seth, he's angered. He throws down his cup of wine and he stands up ready to fight Osiris to the death at this point because he has dishonored him. But then Seth starts feeling dizzy. And he falls. And Osiris takes advantage of him. Seth is angry and he fights back. He tricks Osiris. And in tricking Osiris dies. Seth chops up the pieces of him and throws him into the Nile. But then he holds this secret because he doesn't want anybody to look at him more lowly because of the assault that he experienced. And in his loneliness, he just feels anger. So he goes to Isis. Isis was Osiris' wife. And he begs Isis for help, begs Isis to support him. But Isis turns her back on Seth and casts a curse on the other gods, leaving them all alone. And Seth must deal with that trauma by himself. That the other gods play too. The other gods who know will trigger him and attack him, but it's a secret that he tries to keep. The reason he attacked so many of Isis's followers, he had gone to her for help, and he had gone to her for support. She attacked him, blamed him, and that is what created Seth into his anger and his evil. And then as you go through these stories, you learn bits about Seth, and you get these instances of hearing of him and seeing what made him so mad and why he's so violent, why he's so angry. And he loves Anubis, but he's also so mad at Anubis's existence, and he begs forgiveness over and over. This story was, again, you don't find all of that out until volume 6. Volume 1 and 2, you just see this angry Seth. Volume 3, you're just seeing him play and be strong and be evil and attack and want all of Egypt and hate everyone. By volume 6, when you find out his backstory, I've never heard so much for somebody Because in the beginning, I was like, end him, get rid of him. By 6, my heart for Seth, crazy, insane. After that, I did what I could to hopefully pull myself out of this ever-going thriller slump that I've been in. And I think this thriller slump is going to be forever at this point. I used to love thrillers. Thrillers were one of the genres that really got me back into reading as an adult, and I devoured them at one point. But recently, I have not been satisfied. And that same energy followed with Rock, Paper, Scissors by Alice Feeney. So Adam and Amelia, they went a weekend away in this farmhouse in Scotland. And hopefully this vacation will heal the wounds in their relationship or bring them closer. Now, Adam is a self-proclaimed workaholic, but one thing he also suffers from is face blindness. He can't remember or recognize anybody, be it family, friends, strangers, his favorite barista, none of them. And throughout this story, while they were on this vacation, that seemed a little bit too good to be true. You know from the beginning of the book that by the end of this trip, one person will not be leaving alive. Now, this is your good old-fashioned domestic thriller, and I would say that the ending I did not see coming in its entirety, and I do want to give credit for that. I would also like to say that the last 20-ish% of the book, 15 to 20%, was a romp. That the last 20%, crazy. The other 80% was slow, sort of plodded along. I really think that this didn't need to be as long as it did. And a lot of the writing elements, this use of letters to fill in the background of our characters and the ominous setting of it. The setting was great. I loved this Scotland in the middle of nowhere. The setting was fantastic. I just felt bored until I was on the edge of my seat. Because so when I listened to audiobooks, this was an audiobook, by the way, well done audiobook, I would say. The narrator really handled their thing. When I was at the last percent, I literally walked the dog around the block like 5 more times just so I could finish the book. So ending was so worth it. If you're able to sort of stay strong for a satisfying thrill ending, I would say that this is for you. If you like thrillers that really sort of throttle you around the entire time, this one may not be for you, but maybe give it a shot. I do have one plot point that sort of bothered me though, and that was in the face blindness. So I did a tiny little amount of Googling. Face blindness doesn't affect voices, mannerisms, scent, clothing style. That plot point is a big part of the story. The fact that he has this face blindness is a big plot point. However, it was confusing to me that we just ignored the fact that a human being isn't just their face. I don't know. That was, felt like Alice Feeney could have done a little bit more research, or if anything, give him short-term memory loss. That could have worked, short-term memory loss, something, because the face blindness didn't quite work out for me in the way that it was written and described. After that, I read Tchai. This was bizarre. It was gross. It was grotesque. It was gory. It was funny at times. I thought this was an insane ride. So Tony Tchai is a detective and secret agent, but he's also sebopathic, meaning that he gets these psychopathic visions when he eats something. The only thing that doesn't affect him are beets, so he eats a lot of beets. If he even eats like a slice of lettuce, he flashes to the pesticides, the manure, the fly that landed on this head of lettuce. If he eats a chicken wing, he experiences slaughter. He experiences being forced to be fed. He experiences every element of that chicken's life. So he doesn't much enjoy this power. And it could be argued that there's a point where he doesn't quite know how to use it. Well, in an insane incident that ends with Tony Chu gnawing on the face of a murderous sous chef in a black market chicken spot, he gets pulled into the FDA Special Crimes Unit. And he is given all of the cases that are the weirdest, strangest, and could not otherwise have been solved. This takes him to the Arctic. This takes him to the back alleys. This takes him every corner, solving cases that otherwise would not be solved. I definitely found this one to be enjoyable. It was definitely entertaining. But with that said, it was gross. It was so gross, but still in a very entertaining way. So I do think that I will continue this. The only thing is my library for some reason only has the first volume and like the 8th in physical copy. Otherwise I would have to read it digitally. And I've never read a comic digitally, so I'll give that a shot. That might be a new experience for me. We'll see how I like it. I then read Dragon Rider by Taran Matharu. This is a story of Tchai, who is a royal hostage in the Sabine court after his father had led a failed rebellion against the emperor. As the emperor's son enters into a diplomatic marriage, his betrothed brings a dowry of dragons. However, conspiracy is afoot, and in the absolute mess and ruin that is this conspiracy and that is uproar, the court stumbles, it falls, it cracks, and Tchai and the handmaid of the earlier betrothed escape. And they escape with one of the dragon eggs. However, being soulbound is something that only the Dansk know. Tchai is going to have to figure it out soon if they are to survive. This is a story of magic, adventure, revenge, and I would say that I oddly didn't feel much for my main characters, but I felt a lot for the world and the creatures involved, and I say creatures so specifically. And I would say that the world building in itself did leave me fumbling a few times, and it took me a few pages to get into it. In that the first 10% of the book, I listened to this one on audiobook, great audiobook, by the way. And the first 10%, I had to listen and then re-listen because I just wasn't quite grasping. And I think it's because sequentially, the way this was written sequentially is a bit confusing. But it could have just been because I listened to it on audio, maybe written like in format. It's easier to tell. But in order to get an understanding of certain people and of certain situations, you would get, I would say, flashbacks or background too. It was just in my ears. It was kind of hard to sort of place myself in this book. I would also say that pacing wise, you know how I said in the synopsis of it, which isn't a spoiler because it's literally on the inner flap of the book, Tchai and the handmaiden escape. In the book itself, that happens at 50%. Which I'm not mad at. It's just that I think the synopsis maybe should have been written a little bit differently in order to not give away a plot point that doesn't happen for a good chunk of the book. But the point of this is if you like a book with political intrigue, I loved the way that political intrigue was fleshed out in here. And if you know me, I'm not usually somebody who likes books that have politics at the center of their tale. Something about this one really did it for me. I don't know what it was. I don't know how or why, but the discussions, the turn of phrase, the plotting and devising, it was all something that I greatly enjoyed. The building of politics, I enjoyed this for that central plot line. Loved that. I then needed to read something for a calligraphy time, and I got one of the most heartwarming and feel-good romance experiences that I've had in a long time. And that was First Time Caller by B.K. Borison. I feel like a lot of romances that I've been reading recently have just been how spicy and hot can it get? Or how much do I want these two to go at it? Or how much angst is in here? That's literally all I'm feeling for a lot of these. Or how is he treating her? The concept of a real feel-good story. Oh, I haven't had that in a minute. Even contemporary romances, I don't even think that I'm getting a lot of feel-good. I can't even think of like something that just sort of shone a light on the better parts of love. And the romantic in me ate this up. One night on the late night talk show, a young girl calls in to Aiden Valentine, a talk show host who discusses love. And she calls in for her mother, Lucy. Because while she's 12 years old, she's never seen her mother in a relationship. She knows her mother is so in love and feels so much love for the people around her, be it her daughter, her baby daddy, and her baby daddy's husband. She has so much love around her, but she doesn't have anybody for her. And that's why she calls in. Well, Lucy storms in, hearing her daughter on the phone, and says, "Gives me the phone. Who are you talking to late at night?" And she immediately is terrified when she hears a grown man on the other end of the phone. And that terrified sort of morphs into embarrassment when he tells her, "You're on air. You're live on air. Because your daughter just wants you to find love." This leads Lucy to actually joining this radio show to find love for herself, go on dates, talk about it, maybe put herself out there, because so many people relate. The only person who doesn't quite relate is Aiden Valentine himself, the show host, who has recently been feeling a little bit of that lapse in believing in love. As someone who reads for the smuttiest of smut and the spiciest of spices, this one wasn't about that. This was really like the same feeling I used to get from like a Hallmark movie. This one did that for me. If you want that sort of feel-good Hallmark story feel, this one is the book for you. Highly recommend. Following the trend of me reading books that make me feel good, I read Automatic Noodle. Oh my goodness. So, Automatic Noodle as a story was sort of cozy and feel good. The themes were extremely heavy-handed. But the story itself was still feel good. And I think a lot of the cozier books, these cozy fantasies, this was cozy sci-fi, their themes are pretty heavy-handed and pretty blatant. So I can't get too mad at it. This is pretty common in the genre. But I was just able to enjoy it. Like, I knew what we were talking about, but I was able to just be like, clocked. And then have a good time, if that makes sense. I'm not saying the theme isn't important. I just went, clocked. It wasn't, I didn't end the book and want to go discuss this theme. I was just like, I do like how you represented that. That central theme is, of course, like immigrants in America and how they are treated and othered. But this story follows a ragtag group of robots starting their first noodle restaurant. It's the tiniest little novella. I don't really want to tell you more. It's very quick. You get a little backstory of each of your little robots. You get to know everybody. It's super adorable. It's super cute. Very found family. I would say, found community. Found passion. It's adorable. It really made my heart warm at the end of it all. But that is all I have for you. In case you didn't do it at the beginning of the video, I'm going to put up a screen right about now showing you the books that I will be reading for January, February, and March. Please do leave me any votes for what book you would like to discuss in a live discussion, hangout, chat, vibe. And let me know what kind of book clubs you like. If you like book clubs that are very structured, or if you like book clubs that are more loosey-goosey, hang out, let's catch up. Thank you for hanging out. I'm gonna talk to you next time.